Okay, so we've got a few minutes left, and so I thought we might close with a couple of observations. And the first is really to do with culture. And in the book, you make a huge point about how important culture is. I think it's most of the last part of the book, of just how building the right culture is just so critical. And I think in this time of stress, and our friend Tom Colditz says this a lot, he said, if you want to be a leader in a dangerous or stressful situation, you need to have money in the bank. And what he means by that is you can't all of a sudden expect people to trust you. When the crisis is upon you, you have to have been trustworthy all along. And so my question to you, I guess, would be, so let's say you got a horrible culture. It's just not great. It's bureaucratic, or it's political, or it's whatever. And you want to make it a better culture. What are some things you can do to get started?
Yeah, I think that, years ago, a friend of ours, entrepreneur and writer, Dave Gray, came to us and he said, Alex, Eve, I have these concepts around culture, but I want a simple tool. So we worked with him on creating a tool. And as we are, the plumbers of business thinking and tools.
I'm not going to be able to unhear that, Alex.
So we made a tool with him called the Culture Map. And, culture sounds like such a fuzzy concept and everybody has a different definition, but it turns out you can actually design culture. And every time I tweet about that, people say, no, Alex, you're wrong. You can't. Well, you can't design culture like a car. You can design culture like a garden, right? So you have to create the fertile ground. So what do you work on? You can't change the behavior of people overnight, but you can work on the enablers and the blockers. The enablers that allow a certain culture to emerge, good or bad, and the blockers that block a good or bad behavior. That's the only thing you can work on. And you can do that systematically. And I think that's the challenge, that people today in most companies don't yet think like that. So when it comes to innovation, that's why the last part of the book is all about culture. We have all these tools, we have all these processes, we have the metrics, we know exactly how it works. Well, why isn't it yet happening? You could say, oh, leaders. But it's not just the leaders, it's what the organizational structures and everything they put in place in terms, again, of enablers and blockers. So you can design culture, and actually you have to design culture if you want something, to emerge. And I think most companies, they let culture happen, and that's a crime. That's a crime.
It's not, they don't intentionally think about it. Yeah.
And then maybe just one last point, because when it comes to culture, it's tricky to talk about, because you could say, oh, Apple, right? When under Steve Jobs, they had a great culture. They could innovate. Well, they came up with amazing stuff, but it was a terrible culture. So it always depends what you want. Like, is it a culture of innovation, but that exploits people? Or is it a culture of innovation that enables people at the same time? That's hard, right? But we should really aspire to create a culture where people can do their best work, they can create value for customers, and we can create, financial growth. They don't have to be at the expense of each other. There's these myths, that they're all actually conflicting. No, they're not. That's just how it is right now. But we can fix that, right? So I think the culture topic is probably one of the next big things. Management innovation and culture innovation is going to happen.